How you doing?
I thought good. Look, I thought I'd wear this shirt.
Nice. My wife has been wearing my Rush shirt because she hates Rush, and literally 6 months later they broke up.
All right, tell me something I don't know already.
Rush being able to beat mix is from a
Check. Peanut butter wasn't just a small Jif type. They came in a big bucket. I've never had 100 events in a year. Most of it was just weddings. So that was my first beat mixing seminar at a DJ conference.
Were you freaked out?
I was totally freaked out.
Welcome to episode 4 of DJ Center Stage TV. Our guest today is Brian Harris. Brian began his DJ business in 1997 after already being in the entertainment industry for 10 years behind the drum kit. Brian has spoken at 3 different DJ conferences in 2008, 2009, and 2010. His topic at all of these conferences was on beat mixing, a skill that has come very naturally to him with his drumming background. Brian is a graduate of the Marbecca MC Workshop and Love Story Workshop, the Professional Process Workshop, and the Entertainment Experience Workshop. He attributes all of these performance workshops as a huge part of his success in the DJ field and recommends these workshops to those who are trying to not only better their performance as an MC and DJ, but also wanting to take things to a full-time level, commanding a fee that allows one to be full-time. Brian, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Brian, you and I have a love for Rush. And I think that was our first connection immediately. And just loving the band and following the band and being musicians.
Yeah.
Having that connection. How great is that? So you're a phenomenal drummer. I've seen you post some of your video on Facebook. And it's really interesting that you have that background as a musician too, as well as an MC, as well as a performer and DJ. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your transition into the wedding business.
I started in 1997, and like probably many DJs, it was a friend's wedding. I was actually invited to the wedding, so I said, "Hey, I've been wanting to get into the DJ business. Can I be your DJ?" "Sure." And how much is it going to cost me? I said, "Well, it'll be my gift." Long story short, they ended up paying me $100, and I bought some additional CDs that I needed for wedding type music. And that began the journey. Prior to that, my dad is a big band trombonist, leader of his own band. And as a kid, I would be his roadie, and I would go to the weddings and help him set up the bandstand. And then one of my older brothers is also a drummer, and he was always my dad's drummer. So I would sit back there with my brother Steve and just watch him do his thing. And once I got to an age where I could actually read music, I would sit in on a song or two, and then I think probably high school is when I really started playing full time with my dad when I was available, and played the whole entire gig. So back then it was DJs hadn't taken over. We're talking late 70s, early 80s. The DJs hadn't taken over the wedding industry yet, and so dance bands were very popular for weddings. So my dad was doing weddings constantly. So that was my introduction into weddings and being familiar with weddings. So when I got into the wedding field as a DJ, I was already familiar with what a wedding was all about and how it should flow. Of course, I had my own ideas and learned a lot along the way, but at least I was already familiar with a wedding and the format of how things are ran.
How was the format? Was it much different because of that?
I don't think that there was a timeline like what we do now. We create that timeline with the bride and groom, and we're there to facilitate it for the bride and groom, but it still feels organic to the guests. I think it was kind of like shooting from the hip.
Tell me how being a drummer has helped you as a wedding professional. In what ways?
Well, when it comes to beat mixing, that definitely is a big plus, because just the natural rhythm and the ability to be able to feel it and count it. You wouldn't believe how many DJs that want to beat mix. They don't really know they don't understand the concept of beat mixing. And I know this because I've given some seminars on it, and I've had people come up and talk to me about it afterwards, or raise their hand during the seminar and ask some questions. And that just told me that, not everybody has that natural ability to just beat mix. It's something that can be learned. But just like any instrument, sometimes you're born with that gift. Sometimes it's you got to learn how to understand the rhythm and how to read notes and all that. And for some, unfortunately, there's just no hope.
Just talking about beat mixing, I think you have, one of the important things is to have that innate ability to do that. And if you do, great. And you already have a great sense of that. But if not, then you have to perfect that craft better and learn how to do it.
Yeah.
Over time.
Beat mixing isn't the be all end all. It's important, but it's not, something that you have to do. It's definitely going to help keep that dance floor pulse moving, and I recommend it. And some guys want to do it, some don't care, but it's just one of those things that to me, it's a fun challenge to take two songs and blend them together, and just kind of see the reaction of the guests out there when they're still dancing in the song that's ending. Now here comes this other one to the same tempo, and before they know it, you're into a new song. And they're like, you can see the expression in their face that it's a good thing, it's a positive thing, and that they've no excuse to get off the dance floor.
From a production perspective and thinking about mixing music, as a musician, I love being able to take a song, if I'm a songwriter, and put a song together, coming up with 24 tracks of different sounds and music, and being able to mix that, and then live at an event such as the wedding, to be able to mix two songs together as you're describing and see the reactions on people's faces because they weren't expecting that. And I think you're right about that. I don't think that you have to beat mix at a wedding. I've gone to plenty of weddings as a guest, and where the MC or DJ is horrible at it and doesn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And people still stay on the dance floor and they'll have fun. But if you know how to do it, and you can do it in an event, I think it does help because you lessen your chances of losing a dance floor by being able to transition and mix into another song instead of a song ending.
Yep.
And then people have to say, okay, I have to now figure out how to switch gears and dance to this beat. So what steps have you taken to improve your craft? 8
different workshops I've taken. The very first workshop I took was in October 2006, which was Mark Farrel's Love Story workshop. And from there, let's see here, a year later, 2 years later, I took the MC workshop, which was the original Mark Farrel MC workshop, which was just 2 days. This is before he broke it up into 3 levels of bronze, silver, and gold. So then I went back and took all 3 of those levels again. And then at some point I took the professional process with Peter Mary. I took that in Atlanta, Georgia. That would have been 2009. And then 2010, I took it again, which for those that don't know, when you take the professional process once, you can go back and take it again as many times as you want for free. I don't know if it means he has to have a space for you, or he'll. Anyways, you can take it for free once you've paid for it one time. So I took it in Louisville, Kentucky again, and then I took Bill Herman's entertainment experience.
Okay.
It was the first or second time that I think it was the second time he offered it. I can't remember. Anyways, and so those are all the workshops I've taken, and I can tell you that without those workshops, I would not be where I am today as an MC, even at my price point. But because of those workshops that have taken my performance to a whole new level, that has given me the reason to raise my rates, because I'm offering something different that 10 guys down the road aren't doing. They're just the play button pushers, and I'm offering a lot of creative ideas. And then, of course, just how I am on the microphone and how I present the different moments of the night, from an introduction for a first dance to an introduction for a father-daughter dance. It's just, there's different things that I do that guys in this area aren't doing.
When you think about that first workshop with Mark Farrel, what led you to that point to get in contact with him, and how did you hear about Mark?
I heard about Mark sometime in 2005 for sure. Well, I'm sure it was before that, but when Mark had Disc Jockey America, DJ, which was the online forum, I went from being a member of DJ Chat forum from like early 2000s to 2005, and then I left there for different reasons we don't need to talk about, but just, it's kind of the same old type forum, and I wanted something different and unique, and basically what I wanted to associate myself with some of the best in the industry, because that's, as we know, that's how you get better. When you learn from those guys, and you put yourself, in that group of people, you're only going to get better. So I joined DJA forum, and that's where I really learned more of Mark. And then I found out about the Love Story Workshop and what that was all about. And I was like, okay, I gotta be a part of this. I want to offer a love story presentation for all my couples. And so that I took it in October of 2006 and did my very first love story in February of 2011 for Frank and Mary Welling.
For Mark's workshop, the first one you ever came walking out of, what were you thinking when you were done with that? Your expectations of when you went into that, and then when you were done?
Well, as far as the love story workshop, that's different than from an MC workshop. So let me talk about MC workshop, because love stories is a concept. It's a wonderful thing that you can offer your couples to
Right.
share the story. MC workshop is all about us as the MCs. Love story is all about the bride and groom. So walking out of the first MC workshop, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got so much to work on. I can't believe that, watching back the video that Mark recorded in the workshop of me doing some kind of announcement or introduction, and doing it the way that I've always done it, and then him pointing out why this is bad or that's bad, and telling you why. It's distracting your audience when you do this, or look, you're not smiling. Why aren't you smiling? Things like that, little things that you just don't realize. Now, of course, I'm in front of 9 other colleagues, so I'm again nervous.
Yeah, of course.
I got Jim Cerrone in my workshop. Guys are just fantastic, and everyone's great in their own way, and everyone's got their own unique style. And I think everyone came out of that workshop going, wow. I've been doing some things poorly, or distracting my audience and not really capturing their attention as well as I could, because I'm doing this one thing. It could be something as simple as your hands in your pocket and you're jingling your keys or whatever.
Right.
Or you're walking around too much. You're doing the caged lion effect. So coming out of that first workshop, it was just eye-opening.
That's good. Okay.
That's why when he broke it up, when he realized that he basically fed us through a fireman's hose of information in 2 days, which needed to be broken up into 3 different levels, which was very smart of him to break that up, because that way he could focus on certain things in the bronze, certain things in the silver, and certain things in the gold. And in each level, just you remember what you learned in that, and he builds upon it and builds upon it. Each level, you can feel yourself getting better, and he can, of course, see that as well, him and Rebecca. And it's just a great way to just take what you've only known from, I don't know, whether it's just your own style or whether you learned it somewhere else, and take it to the next level. And that's what I learned. it's definitely helped me. It's given me more confidence. That's a big part, because, I mean, I still get nervous when I walk out there for the very first time and turn on the mic.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Because I think there's people that don't like to admit it or don't believe they are nervous.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be. I think Beyonce mentions before performances, and the tremendous talent and time and dedication she puts into performance.
Yeah.
She says, I am terrified and nervous before each performance. To say that, I think there's a lot of different things that says about you, because you put a lot of time and care into putting things together. You want them to be the best for your couples. You want to present it the best way. I think it has a lot to do with just caring. You don't want anything to go wrong. And and we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of events, no matter how much you plan it through, and they could go as smoothly as possible with all that plan you do. But there are things that are just going to happen that never have you experienced before at an event. And you're just kind of adding that to the list of all those things. I'm like, oh, wow. So now you come up with ways to solve that in advance and add that to your arsenal of how to deal with that at an event. But yeah, there's just situations that are going to come up that you don't have that control over. And you have to figure out, well, how do I handle this situation?
Yeah. For me, the nervousness in the very beginning is the acceptance of the audience that I'm going to be speaking to.
Sure.
When I welcome them, I want them to be responsive in a positive way. And they're at someone's wedding. They're going to be, but there's still that, little voice in my head going, are they going to like me? And I want them to like me, and I want them to react to everything I say. But you got to say, you got to tell yourself you're there for the bride and groom, and you're going to give your very best. And it's going to be great regardless.
Right.
But once I get done with that very first opening welcome, I'm good. All those nerves are gone, and now I can walk back out on the dance floor for any kind of announcement or whatever, and not feel that same tension that I do when I walk out. But that nervousness is a passion. It comes from passion. Because I love my job so much. I love what I do. I don't want to mess up. And there's a good quote that I'm going to read it so that I say it correctly, from Bobby Flay, the chef. He says, if you aren't nervous about your passion, it's not your passion.
Mm-hmm.
So and I've heard DJs say, I don't get nervous anymore, man.
Yes.
And I'm like, really? You don't get nervous when you walk out there and for anything? I mean, that just tells me that you're not necessarily as passionate as you should be. But, it is what it is. But for me, I anticipate that moment, and I'm glad when it's over, but at the same time, I enjoy being able to welcome everybody and get them excited about what's about to happen, which is typically the grand entrance. And
a good analogy for that would be your performance of your first song in your band behind the kit.
Yeah. You
have that first song tension and nervousness, right?
Yeah.
That's always been the case for me. And then after that.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say that when I get behind the drum kit, I'm not as nervous. I would almost say I'm not nervous at all.
Wow.
Excited, maybe, but I still have a passion for drumming, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I'm in the back of the stage.
Sure.
I'm not leading it. I'm not saying hello to the crowd in front of me.
Right.
And that could be why I enjoy what I do, because now I'm able to get away from the drum kit, out from behind the drum kit, and be that MC that is doing something completely different from playing drums in the back of the stage, being in the background.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense, because it's like from drummer to frontman, and kind of thinking of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned confidence. So you've gained a stronger sense of confidence by attending these workshops. What are some other things that you think that have helped you improve and you've turned weaknesses into strengths, or just gotten better in one area, whether that's in performance related or what it would be? story here.
It really just comes down to, for me, it just really comes down to performance and how I present myself. I used to have bad posture too. Posture is huge, and Mark talks about that. When I started working out at the gym in 2011, the guy that I started working out with about 5 months into it, he would always, correct my posture because I would kind of stand there slumped, and he'd always push my chest back and my, lower back out, and he's like, stand up straight, Brian. And I'm very grateful for that because it has helped me be more aware of my posture because, posture is important. I don't want to be that slumped over little old man when I'm, 70 years old with just bad curvature. I don't want that. So I'm definitely more aware of it. And that plays into when I walk out there onto the dance floor, I'm poised, got my shoulders back. I'm smiling, and it's just, I think it comes through when I speak. I hope that it does. And I record myself every time that I walk out there.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
You do, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. You do record yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Someday.
Someday I'll post some.
All right, we've talked about the performance and the workshops and how they've helped you become a stronger, more confident MC and improve your performance. So let's back up and think about the planning process. When you're putting all these things together for brides and grooms for their wedding day, take me through your process of planning for a wedding. How much time roughly are you putting into it, and what does your schedule look like for that?
For actual, I like to try to get a head start more than just a week out. But sometimes when you're in the major thick of it of wedding season, you just can't get ahead. You're usually, for me at least, I'm working about a week out. So usually that Sunday before the following weekend is when I'm really beginning my prep for what I need to prepare for. Of course, I've already done love story and grand entrance. I put all that stuff together, but when it comes to like the week of, I'm getting the music together and programming everything into my DJ software, and I am putting everything in the right folder so that there's no mistake, and I'm double and triple and quadruple checking it to make sure that I didn't put the wrong song in the wrong folder, and I'm checking. I'm doing my rehearsals with the love story, and I'm rehearsing the grand entrance, and I'm practicing all that right here in this office. And if what I try to do is I try to not bug my bride and groom the week of. If I could try to get all questions out of the way before then, because they've got they're excited, and then the last thing I want to have to do is bug them the week of. But as I tell them, I'd rather bug you with a couple questions than assume anything.
Right.
The wrong answer. So, and no brides ever said, yeah, don't bother me. They're always like, no big deal. Yeah, whatever you need to know.
And they have so many things that are going on within that week before, as you know. There's just tons of things on their mind. So I'm sure they're stressed out. To do that, it makes the most sense.
Yeah.
So as far ahead as you can, there's going to be things that come up last minute that they may ask you, or you have to ask them just to verify some things. But I think if you do contact them the week of their wedding, what it also does, I think it puts a bad taste in their mouth, because they're thinking probably that you're just starting to work on planning it out. And so they may think, oh, he waited until last minute, or she waited until last minute to get this process started of planning my event, and not feel like you're taking the time ahead to really put everything into plan ahead of time. So, but okay, so that, and you brought up about the music the last week. I think that's a really good idea, because what happens, and I'm sure the reason why you do this, is if you download new music that they're saying, oh, I want this for my first dance, and it's an obscure song, and great, you do that, and then they come back and say, oh, I'd like to change that to this song.
Yeah,
I already have it. So you got to think of being cost effective too, and making sure, because oftentimes the music will change.
Yeah. I have bought so much music that did not get used because of that exact scenario. They change your mind. and maybe sometimes I will buy it right there at the meeting. You know, a month out from the wedding, we'll have our planning meeting.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about it right then, and I don't have it in my library, but I always have iTunes open. I'm like, look, let's go to iTunes right now. Let's check it out.
Yeah.
And if they're like confident that that's definitely the song, then I'll go and buy it right then and there. That way we can listen to the whole thing, not just the 30 or 60-second sample.
Right. And so you're talking about playlists of music and creating the music, putting that together, organizing that. What about other elements of the day? So as far as like the timeline and getting that off to vendors, or just some of the details of how they're creating, you know, the part of the creating what will happen in the event. How long do you take to work on that?
Yeah, well, you know, but like I said, a month out from the wedding, we're meeting here for the planning session, and that's where we will create the timeline. I like to do that with them. I know there's some DJs that will let them do it, you know, online if they use DJ Event Planner or any other online source, and they can actually create it themselves. I like to be a part of it. It's not a selfish thing. It's a just, you know, from a professional standpoint.
Right.
I've done hundreds of weddings.
Yeah.
They've done one, so I want to be there to guide them along the way, and I'm sure that they want my input as well. So we'll create the timeline here. And I've got a template that I use, and I let them know this right now. The way that it looks is a good order. Doesn't mean it has to be in this way, and we'll move things around as we see fit. We'll remove anything that we're not going to do and add anything in there that's not already in there that you want to do. So when we're done with the planning session that day, then I will mail that off, email it to the photographer and the videographer if there's one, and you know, usually the caterer as well. Usually the caterer doesn't need it, but you know, it's always nice for them to have. There's one caterer that I work with that likes to have it, you know.
Yeah.
And if I don't get it to them soon enough, they're contacting me to say, "Hey, got a timeline yet?" Yes, I do.
Yeah, you're right though. Talking about just starting it off, this is their first planning for a wedding.
Yeah.
The last, but so you've done hundreds of weddings, and you're familiar with the flow of timelines and being able to say that to couples, and as you know, whether they want to do that with you or not. But to have them do that alone, I think that's a big mistake for the very reasons that they just haven't been through something like this. In most cases, 9 times out of 10, that they're not going to know how the flow goes, and they're like, "Oh, let's just try this. This will work."
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not going to work. So just to be able to sit down and be on the same page and create that together, that's a great idea.
Yeah. And on that same note, I still get couples that every once in a while that will contact me a couple weeks later or whatever and say, we need to add something in there. We need to change something around for whatever reason. And, you know, as long as it's not detrimental to the outcome, then I'm like, okay, that's cool. I've made the change, and here's a copy of it, you know, of the updated one.
And Brian, I found too with some couples that are pretty low key and they're not the very organized type or like the timeline. Some of them just freak out about it. And I think some of them want to give you the responsibility to say, dude, take care of this for me.
Yeah.
You know, because some people get stressed out by it. And if you're going over the details, they're like, wow, I don't know. And then they start thinking too much about it and saying, I'm getting a little worried about whether or not I'm supposed to be more involved. And they're just, I didn't really think about that. Now I am, and 100 ideas going through their head. And
you're right.
So I think for some couples, depending on what their personality and approach to that type of thing works good, working with them. Some I found that will just say, hey, just put it together for me, please. Others like to be very involved and almost create it themselves, as you mentioned. And
I've had couples come to the meeting with a sheet of paper, kind of with their own little timeline. So we take that and build upon it on my template, and so they go home with, you know, that timeline at the end of the meeting, you know, that included part of their input. You know, I never want them to feel like I'm trying to exclude them. You know, this is their day. You know, I want to give it to them the way that they want it. But, you know, there's also certain things that certain order or whatever it might be that may not be a good idea for whatever reason. And I will, you know, I don't sugarcoat it. Here's why this is not a good idea. You know, usually doesn't happen. I mean, but every once in a while you'll get a couple that want to do this thing, and you're like, well, if we do this is going to happen. And they're like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
Right.
Yeah, let's not do it there. Let's do it later or whatever.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like a real effective approach to working with couples and putting everything together for them to ensure their day flows as smoothly as possible. Brian, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure talking to you and just hearing how you've grown as a professional and all the resources you've taken care of, and putting in your arsenal as a professional, and having this opportunity has been fantastic to be able to talk to you a little bit more in depth about it. And you are very vocal as far as being on different group pages and helping other MCs out. Yeah. So thank you for that. I want to say thank you because you've helped me tremendously when I've been looking for ways to approach situations at weddings or not knowing how to deal with something. You've always had advice for how to make a transition better or just overcoming a problem and being able to find a solution for that. So you do the same for other MCs on the 1% solution page, on showcasing your talents as a master of ceremonies for MCs that are looking for feedback about their performance and how they can improve. So that's great. And so I think it's important to have a community of professionals that are just wanting to make everybody else help grow as well and better themselves at events. And there's not many people that are willing to do that and take the time and care to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Well, for me, it's because I have learned from so many people, and as the old saying goes, pay it forward. The more people that can learn from me and others, it makes the industry better. Because there's a lot of bad DJs out there that people have seen. So the more that we can make this industry better and make better MCs and better DJs out there, it's just going to make everybody look that much better, when it comes down to the performance. So I'm always willing to share my ideas from what I've learned because, people were graciously giving me tips and tricks over the years. So I want to pay that forward to others that, might have the same questions.
Awesome. So other than the 1% solution and showcasing your talents as master of ceremonies, what's a good place where other DJs or MCs who just have questions can get in touch with you?
Just find me on Facebook or my website, brianharrisentertainment.com. info@brianharrisentertainment.com is my email address. Like I said, find me on Facebook, send me a message. I'm always willing to chat.
That's all the time we have today. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Brian, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Jim.